Hello there, people of the internet. So, if you've been around the channel for any length of time, by the way, we're out here at the old range. I know a lot of people, they see this range and they're like, oh, this is an old video. Let's skip over it because I've probably already seen it. No, this is a modern one. I still own this place. I just don't really come out here all that often because it's several hours away from where I currently live. But whenever I do come out here, I come out here for shooting. So if you've been around this channel for any real length of time, you know that I enjoy the idea of being as self-sufficient as possible, like providing your own things for the life it is that you're living. Now, that's a lot easier said than done. There's certain things that you just can't really adamantly provide yourself whenever it comes to the life that we live. And for a pretty large margin, smokeless powder for our cartridges that we fire. If you're watching this channel, you're probably a gun guy. The smokeless powder for the cartridges that we fire is typically store-bought. With some exception, I am experimenting with some homemade smokeless powder. I've actually made a video about that if you want to go watch that on the channel. But I am experimenting with homemade smokeless powder, but that definitely has a long way to go. All of that being said, odds are the smokeless powder you're getting is going to be store-bought. That being said, black powder is very easy to make. You can make the components for black powder very simply if you have bodily organs that do bodily organ things, and you have access to groundwater, because in most of the places around here, groundwater has sulfur inside of it. You don't need sulfur for black powder, it just makes it work a lot better. But again, it's not necessary. Besides that, all you need is charcoal, which you can get from any fire pit. So if you have digestive organs and you have access to a fire pit, you can make yourself black powder. Might not be all that great of black powder, but it'll probably be serviceable enough to serve the needs it is that you're looking for. And then there's the bullets. So the bullets with the cartridges that we use, most of the time they're store-bought. Not a lot of people make their own bullets, but if you do make your own bullets, they're typically cast bullets. I don't know anyone that makes their own jacketed bullets. But they're typically cast bullets, and that's because casting is super easy. You melt down lead, which melts at a super low melting point, and you throw it into a bullet mold, and then bam, you have yourself some bullets. The big issue with cast bullets is they have a lot of limitations. If you're using cast bullets with black powder, the velocities of black powder don't really get high enough for those limitations to really matter. But with smokeless powder, there's a lot of limitations with cast bullets. So, number one, if you're using cast bullets in like a, pistol cartridge that's moving anywhere from 1,000 feet per second to 1,600 feet per second, which is your typical range for pistol cartridges, that's not really going to matter with lead rounds. If you're using like a large bore rifle round, like say a 45-70 or a 44 Magnum, lead rounds tend to work pretty gosh darn well with those as well. The thing is, whenever we start looking at high velocity smokeless powder rounds that are, say, 30 caliber, that is whenever you start to see issues with lead rounds. As that round goes through the barrel at high velocities, lead is soft and it melts really easily. And those higher velocities are going to cause leading inside of your barrel. There's a wasp flying around me, that's why I'm watching it. Those higher velocities are going to cause leading inside of your barrel, and that's going to significantly diminish accuracy, and that's not something that we want. So from a bunch of testing that a bunch of other people have done, it seems that depending on the hardness of your lead, around 2,200 feet per second is like the maximum point for sending a bullet downrange, sending a cast lead bullet downrange without getting leading inside your barrel. Some people can push it a little bit faster, but those are typically like super hard cast bullets. For your typical hard cast bullets, you're looking at about 2,200 feet per second. It is warm out here, and there is no air movement, and it is humid. Boy, oh boy, but I am very determined to get out here and test this ammunition. So the ammunition that I've loaded up, I went ahead and loaded up some 30-40 Krag for my Krag Jorgensen, my 30-40 Krag. And I got two different kinds of ammunition. I got a 210 grain bullet that is slightly oversized. And for cast bullets, it seems that you want to go slightly oversized. All of the rounds that we're using today are gas checked. These particular ones, I think that they're a 310 or a 311 diameter projectile, which is, like I said, exactly what it is that you want. And then I have some 180 grain projectiles, and these ones are a 309 diameter, so ever so slightly smaller than the other ones that we're using, but both of these are going to be 100% adequate for the purposes that we're doing. Both of these have been loaded up to their respective velocities to run at 2,000 feet per second, according to the load data that I was given. And that's one of the reasons why I use 30-40 Krag, because load data exists for this cartridge to reach that 2,000 feet per second with these bullet weights that we're using. So it's a super easy to cartridge to load for these cast rounds. So I guess we're going to go ahead and have a seat at my table right here. I got a paper plate out there. I want to see what kind of accuracy we're going to get with these cast lead rounds. I have a bunch of... Bro, get away from me. Go somewhere else. I do not want anything to do with you. I am fighting for my life over here. I will kill you, I swear. Go away. Bro, there's gotta be a wasp nest or something around here. That was awesome. But I've got these rounds loaded up to their respective velocities to reach 2,000 feet per second, and we don't really want to go any faster than that, just because the rounds that I'm using, they are hard cast and they do have a gas check, and I probably could push them to 2,200 feet per second. But as you push cast lead rounds faster and faster, you lose more and more accuracy. So there's a Goldilocks area in terms of velocity and capabilities and accuracy. I think it's the same way with all projectiles, just most of us don't really notice it because we're using jacketed projectiles, and most of us aren't really shooting anything faster than, say, 3,500 feet per second. Aha! I got him! Oh no, there's another! Alright. I think it's gone. Question mark? There's got to be a wasp nest somewhere around here. And I'm betting it's inside this metal thing that's right next to me. But I think I'm good. I don't see anyone else. Fantastic. This is not the way I wanted this video to go. But you know what? We're doing it anyway. So these are... We're going to start off with the 110 grain rounds. And the 30-40 Krag has a 1 and 10 twist-ish barrel inside of it. I think it's somewhere around there. It might be a 1 and 9.5. But I do know that they do prefer heavier bullets. So this right here gives us our best opportunity for good accuracy with these heavier bullets at the velocities that we're using. Depending on the accuracy that we get with these, I'm going to then compare them to the accuracy with these 180 grain bullets, which I don't think are going to be as accurate as the ones that are heavier. It just seems that with cast rounds, the heavier your bullet is and the slower it's moving, that seems to be the play to get accuracy. Not only that, but since we're not pushing past 2,000 feet per second, if we want to have a more powerful round with more energy on target, then we're going to have to add more weight to the bullet. So 210 grains, I'm going to go ahead and have a seat right here. We're going to fire at my target down there and see if we even hit the bloody thing. So I don't know how well these are going to work, or even if they're going to work. Don't know if they're going to keyhole or what our story is going to be, but I know a great way to find out. All right, our paper plate down there is slightly obstructed by weeds, so we are going to be shooting through some weeds that might hinder accuracy ever so slightly, but I don't think it's going to do very much. Let's go ahead. I got 2 rounds. We're just going to, actually, let me load up 3 rounds. Nah, we're going to, actually, I should probably send 1 downrange and see if this is even going to hit the target. Let's do that before we do anything else. All right, 210 grain bullet at our paper plate target down there. All right. Recoil wasn't too bad. It definitely felt like a rifle round, but it felt kind of similar to a 30-30, I guess. Not overly powerful, but not exactly weak either. Let me go grab that paper plate, see if we even hit it. Well, we hit our target. I'm going to go ahead and do a 3-round group down there, and the reason why I'm doing a 3-round group and not a 5, 6, 7, 10-round group is because this is 30-40 Krag, and I don't have a whole lot of brass to work with, so these are the 210 grain bullets. They did stabilize out there, so we're not going so fast that the bullets become unstable. Let's see how good a 3-shot group does. We're sitting at probably about 50-ish yards or so. 3-shot group, 30-40 Krag, 110 grain cast load bullets, 2,000 feet per second. It doesn't feel like it has a tremendous amount of recoil behind it, but it's certainly making the rifle bounce around a lot. On top of that, there sure was a lot of smoke that came out of this thing. All right, here's shot number 2. Had some magazine malfunction, so I will have to just fiddle with that, I guess. Let's see what we got going on here. All right, there's shot number 2. As far as I'm concerned, with the kinds of shooting that I do, if all of these are just on the plate, I'll be happy. All right, let me wander down there and grab that bad boy and have a look, and we're going to see what that looks like, I guess. All right, so the rounds are hitting a little low, which is to be expected. I was aiming at the top of the plate, and they hit down here. This one over here was my test fire to see if these bullets were even going to stabilize and make it on the plate. So this right here is our 3-shot group. And that's pretty gosh darn good for 50 yards. That's like an inch. So this ammo is going to be, what, 2 MOA with a 100-plus-year-old gun? Dude, that's pretty good. So it seems to like the 210 grain bullets. So now what we're going to do, probably going to flip this around, and we're going to send the 180 grain bullets at it. So the only difference with these is they're ever so slightly smaller. They're still oversized, but they're ever so slightly smaller, and they're ever so slightly lighter. They're still moving at about 2,000 feet per second. We're going to see how well this works with our twist rate with our 30-40 Krag, I guess. Fingers crossed it works as well as this does, because this is awesome. My problem is I don't have a mold for 210 grain bullets. So let's see how well this other one does. Accuracy testing, 180 grain bullets, moving at 2,000 feet per second. These are the cast lead rounds. Let's see how well these ones work in comparison to those heavier 110 grain bullets. All right, firing. All right, not as much recoil on these ones, which makes sense because they're lighter bullets moving at the same speed. So that also means that these are not as powerful as the 210 grain bullets. But I still wouldn't want to get hit by it. All right, that one actually felt a little bit more, felt like it had a little bit more oomph behind it than the first one did. Very unusual, very strange, very interesting. Okay, there's our 3-shot group. Let me wander down there and see what it is that we're working with. Okay, so it absolutely prefers those heavier bullets. Here's our original 3-shot group with those 212 grain bullets. Here's either one of these two. 1, 2, 3-shot group with those 180 grain bullets. So that is, oh boy, that's a big difference. We went from like 2 MOA with those heavy bullets to this ridiculous group size with the other ones. Dude, that's an astronomical difference. I was not expecting that. On the bright side though, these lighter weight bullets do look like they still stabilized. I don't see any keyholing or anything, and that's ultimately what I was looking for. I don't really shoot at stuff past 50 yards, so this is accurate enough. So I can take note that for my cast lead rounds, the Krag likes the 310 or 311. I'll have to check my notes. It likes the slightly oversized bullets, and it likes the super heavy bullets. Very, very good to know. So there we go. I guess that's my testing. I do have this water jug out here. I want to see how powerful this ammo actually is. I bet it's not going to be, like, explosively powerful. But let's go ahead and smack it with one of these 210 grain rounds. And I want to see how much energy is transferred onto our water jug. Because if it works well enough, then I might take one of these rounds out hunting. I bet it'll probably work well enough. Well, let's set out the water jug and see what happens. Alright, power test on water jug. 30-40 Krag. 210 grain cast bullet. This seems to be the bullets that this rifle likes. Let's go ahead and load up here and see if we can smack that water jug enough to put it on the table. Insert joke here that I completely failed at. Firing. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That'll do it. That's enough. That's plenty. Especially at the distances I'm going for and the things that I'm shooting at. So awesome. Okay, video conclusion. The Krag likes heavier bullets, which is something that I already kind of knew. That's just kind of the general consensus. Seems like all of these 30 caliber rifles with a 1 in 10 twist barrel seem to prefer your heavier bullets. So 200 to 220 grain is probably what I'm going to look for whenever it comes to casting for this particular rifle, because that seems to be what it likes. Those lighter grain bullets, it worked well enough. I hit the plate at the 50 yards or so that I was at, and for the distances that I'm shooting at and the things I'm shooting at, that's absolutely plenty for the range plinking. Uh-oh. Got another wasp here. Oh boy. They're really coming out in droves, ain't they? So thanks for watching, folks. I have a bunch of other cartridges that I am cast testing for. That's probably going to be filmed later on. I'm going to go grab the bug spray and hunt down that wasp nest. I will see you guys on the next episode. There's another. Dude, there's like 3 of them buzzing around me right now. Okay, wish me luck, guys. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.